I recently replayed Super Mario Galaxy 2 for a larger video ranking all the stars in it. About 3/4 of the way through, after collecting one of the many Comet medals and thinking on how some are either really well hidden or lazily thrown in, I thought it might be a fun little video to do on the side ranking all of those. I love ranking videos that get really stupidly specific and niche, so this can be me throwing my hat in that ring. Every galaxy in the game has its own Comet medal, which gives us a nice round 49. I'm bothered more than I reasonably should be that it isn't an even 50. Regardless, I'm going to order each of them from my least favourite to my favourite. Whether they have good hiding spots or are placed out in the open, is collecting them any fun or do you just walk over and grab it, that sort of thing. It does not take into account how much I like their respective stars as a whole, and it especially does not factor in how much I like the prankster comets they unlock. Going off those criteria, the list would look very different than how it is here. Each one is also within the galaxy's first star, something the game flat out tells you in case you don't intuit it on your own. So everything's on an even playing field in terms of not sending you on a wild goose chase in the level where the medal doesn't spawn. That's about it for the criteria, so how about we get started with the bottom of the barrel. Shockingly, the last place spot did not come from the obvious problem child of the roster. Instead, Supermassive Galaxy is significantly worse at where it chooses to place its Comet medal. Some medals are visible in their stage overview cinematic, and that kinda sucks. Supermassive decides to up the ante on that and put it in plain view the second you touch down at the start of the level. The most charitable defense I could give is that maybe they intended for it to be obscured by the big Goomba and the other coins. I still noticed it frame 1 on this replay when my last one was over 3 years ago, so you tell me how well they accomplished that. It's not even exciting to get, it's just there. Over a pit, granted, but if you're at the start of World 4 and haven't figured out long jumps yet, then that's a you issue. There are similarly obvious ones in other galaxies, but I can at least cut those ones a bit of slack because in many cases I don't know what else you'd even do with them. Supermassive doesn't get that lenience because the level is full of possible spots. On top of the giant thwomps or between the blocks beneath them, the tiny planet that some players might just speed past without a second thought, the full 360-degree wiggler section which would improve it by incentivizing you to not just long jump between the platforms. There were plenty of options, but it's like they didn't even try. I wouldn't call it a detriment to its otherwise great star or anything since it isn't actively frustrating to get, it's just a thoroughly nothing collectible that feels like it was hastily thrown in there out of obligation. Thankfully this is the only F tier. Doesn't mean we've got no more duds left to go, but they're at least not quite as egregious. 48 Rolling Masterpiece Galaxy. I appreciate what this one is going for, but between you landing and all the buzzsaws going around, it takes way too long for it to be a substantially difficult or engaging Comet medal to grab. The hole in the floor is never going to drop before I can get out of there, which means this is left as a pretty easy and unremarkable collectible in the middle of a wide open space. 47 Battle Belt Galaxy. God, can this galaxy do anything right without stealing from the homework of 2 better levels? I mean, I'll give it that this is better than any of the green stars. It's at least right next to a pit of lava with enemies you have to be careful around. It's on a spherical planet, so I can at least fathom the possibility that someone could not go to that side and see it immediately. Yeah, Battle Belt might just be a bit shit. This is higher than I expected it to place though, so gotta give it some props there. 46 Donovan Court Galaxy. I mean, it's right there, what else do you want? It's sorta satisfying to try and make your way through in one sequence while collecting the medal without the structure closing. That's about all this one has. Barely an inconvenience. 45 Puzzle Plank Galaxy. Suffers from the same problem Rolling Masterpiece has, since even though it's way farther from where you land, the buzzsaw still barely matters. It's especially frustrating since the only fix this needs is to have the buzzsaw go immediately upon landing rather than waiting for you to get near it. That would give it way more urgency and massively boost it, because in concept I love the idea of a timed collectible that you need to grab before the platform beneath it disappears. Shame that it ended up kinda squandered. 44 Beat Block Galaxy. The disappearing blocks do give this some level of risk and force you to time it properly. Unfortunately, the window to do it is way too wide for it to be a particularly meaningful challenge. It's also the most blatantly visible one in its level overview. I get there's not many places it could have gone, but surely they could have put it on its own little block off to the side for a really tightly timed long jump. At the very least, don't have it be something you can easily jump across to as if it was part of the main path. 43 Slips Hand Galaxy. As much as I adore this galaxy, which for a Mario Desert level is very out of the ordinary for me, the Comet medal is not one of my points of praise. It has clock booms dropping bombs to deal with, then once you get past those you're really just grabbing as you go through the regular path. It's not even one of the galaxy's standout set pieces. You'd think they'd put it on the slide or something a bit more exciting than this. 42. Bowser's Gravity Gauntlet. Possible to miss if you speed through and don't give the camera enough time to adjust, I guess. Unlikely to happen if you pay attention to the intro, and there's no punishment for accidentally destroying the brick block because it is not needed to backflip up and grab it. Maybe you could potentially lose out on it if you die in this section and forget to grab it again. I don't know, I can't say I'm a fan of this one. 41. Twisty Trials Galaxy. The Comet medal here is entirely reliant on you playing through the level cloudless like I did to get anything out of it. If you do use the Cloud Flower, this is a complete joke because there's nothing to discover or even really do to collect it. If you take the Sunshine Pill and play the level without the bizarre easy mode, it's part of some fairly tricky platforming, but it's still just something you collect along the way in the middle of something more exciting. I don't know how many points I can give for a precarious location when it was going to be a place I touched down on regardless if the medal was there or not. 40. Boo Moon Galaxy. Love the star it's part of, but man is this Comet medal unimpressive. You're on the decently dangerous snake blocks over the poison swamp, but it's a very short section and there isn't that much to it. The blocks take you there without much hassle and you're on your merry way, whether you hop over to the nearby launch star or stick with it to the hidden star a little further off screen. It does at least stop you from being able to bypass the snake blocks completely. That's us through all the ones I consider outright bad now. There were way more than I was expecting. Still a little ways away from getting to the ones I think are great though. 39. Tall Trunk Galaxy. For being one of the game's highlight galaxies, it doesn't have an especially great Comet medal. It's kinda fun to chain the blimp fruits together and try and grab this without falling down since it'll push you to the end of the power-up's timer. Doesn't make it that interesting to find since it's on a part of the planetoid where you'll see it as you go through the normal path. 38. Bowser Jr.'s Fearsome Fleet. If there's one area this level wasn't cooking that hard, it's with the Comet medal. I really like the idea of putting it on one of these ships that appear on the moving platform segment, but it's so close to the middle of the ship that you barely have to deviate from your path to get it. It does at least have the hammer bro there as an obstacle and a set time limit to get it, so by default it's way better than the one in Cloudy Court. 37. Upside Dizzy Galaxy. I've written out a list of all the galaxies noting which ones have the medal visible in their opening cinematic, and for this one I just wrote, come on man. Inarguably one of the least well hidden in the game, and it's not that hard to get to make up for it. But it does give you multiple options to approach the puzzle from, some of which can be enjoyable. Threading the needle and collecting the medal in one clean sequence without touching the zappers can be pretty satisfying. 36. Honeybloom Galaxy. Not one you have to exactly seek out, but I do like the inclusion of the chopper to make you time when you enter the little enclosure on the side. You need to avoid that and not touch the water on the ground to retain your bee suit. Otherwise you have to go back down and recollect the bee mushroom to continue making your way up. Thankfully in a shorter segment, so it's not a chore to redo. 35. Mario Squared Galaxy. So this is another obvious one that's in plain view, but I can cut it some slack because it's at least a little bit out of the way, and also where the hell else would you even put it? This galaxy doesn't have any viable hiding spots. And the Comet medals don't boot you out the level like the green star, so putting it underneath isn't exactly an option either. Putting it on a slight detour when the whole mission is about pathing is as good as they could have done with this one. Aided by the disappearing platforms forcing you to get in and out without a ton of time to linger and get your bearings. 34. Bowser Jr.'s Fiery Flotilla. I really like the hiding spot on this one. Having you climb atop a thwomp to reach it is a great way to change how you approach the enemy. Shame that the course overview makes it painfully obvious where the medal is, so the excitement of discovering it is completely gone. That alone dropped this down significantly farther than I would have had it otherwise. It's even as painfully obvious as the one in Supermassive when you touch down, the difference being that this one's actually fun to go for. 33. Spin Dig Galaxy. Not as much of a compelling hiding place as it is a gentle nudge towards how you should really be progressing this puzzle from the other side of the planetoid. It's a nice little gift from the galaxy for trying out the spin drill in other spots, nothing more than that. 32. Right Side Down Galaxy. Has different ways you can get to it depending on which way you have gravity flipped, and that's pretty neat. Neither way is especially exciting and it's easy to spot regardless, but the variation is appreciated and the wall jump that one of them offers is decently satisfying. 31. Fluffy Bluff Galaxy. This small water planetoid is the galaxy's way of forcing you to go without a cloud suit for a little bit as you gather the star chips. If you still have the power up on the starting platform, you can pretty easily use it to grab the medal that's not hard to see. If you lose it, it's still very doable with a normal triple jump, but the cosmic clones do make things a bit more interesting since you can't stay in the same position to align yourself for too long. It makes you decide whether you want to prioritize it or the star chips as well, so it can be fun to try and plan out your route. 30. Yoshi Star Galaxy. In almost any other context, I'd have one this obvious near the bottom. I mean, not only is this placed in a completely obvious location that you can see in the course overview and as you approach, it also isn't that exciting to actually get. Hop on this jump pad and grab it on the hill. Riveting. Where this gets a lot of leniency from me though is as the introduction to them. Sky Stations is well hidden enough to where I can see someone potentially missing it as they go through, since they won't know to look out for Comet medals at this point. So for first time players, the one in Yoshi Star serves a solid purpose of making you aware that the collectibles even exist and creating intrigue. And it tells any returners to not let themselves forget. Like I did on this go around, whoops. I do wish it was something you needed Yoshi for though. The flower things would have felt more appropriate than the basic hill you can just jump onto as Mario. We're starting to get into the more positive side of the video now. On to the ones that I'd say I'm quite fond of. 29 Boulder Bowl Galaxy. Encourages interacting with the background scenery in a way that's really fun to test out with a rock mushroom. It's nothing elaborate, but it is fun to shatter this giant magic crystal, so I gotta give it some props. 28 Space Storm Galaxy. A very strange case where it is visible in the intro, but only briefly because of the pop-in. That doesn't kill this one. You do still have to find where it is on the platforming planetoid, and time your long jump so you don't eat shit to the zappers. It has enough going for it to where I'd say I'm fairly favourable towards it despite its big flaw. 27 Boss Blitz Galaxy. Considering how limited the options are for hiding something in 5 wide open arenas, this was actually a solid spot. Of the 4 bosses here who have undersides to their arena planets, putting it at the bottom of Caliente's makes the most sense. He's a stationary boss and doesn't require you to go under, so I often forget that I even can. It caught me a bit off guard when I stumbled across it this time, and they at least place it high enough to where you need to triple jump to get it. You can't just mindlessly stroll on past. 26 Shiverburn Galaxy. Mainly carried by being in one of the top 5 best stars in the game. The level itself never has a dull moment, which includes this incredible lava planet with a meteor storm that you have to platform across. Finding what you're looking for here isn't hard, it's in the middle of the main route, but it makes up for that by being fun to collect. You can try and hold your ground until a properly placed platform comes across, or you can long jump early, which is very satisfying to do. Unfortunately, the weakest part of its galaxy by far, which speaks more to how phenomenal everything else about it is. 25 Bowser's Lava Lair. For how many times they show this beforehand, I can surprisingly let them off the hook a little bit. It is in the course overview, but it's really small, obscured a little bit by the text, and can easily be mistaken for a giant question mark coin or a question block, which are also in the area. Don't have as strong of a defense for this view from above where you can see it in advance, though it makes up for that by being pretty fun to go for. It's like a more dangerous version of what Fiery Flotilla had, since you need to bait the Wump into falling over so you can get on its back and rise up with it. Or you can wall jump off it while it's standing, which is pretty exciting, especially if you do it while it's facing towards you. 24 Flipsville Galaxy. Makes really good use of this opening set piece being a little maze. Not a super elaborate one to where this is anything amazing, but it's good for encouraging you to explore more of the greats. Unfortunately though, it is visible both in the course overview and through some of the other camera angles, so it gives you more of an indicator towards where to go than I'd like. 23 Grand Master Galaxy. Probably the one level where I'm all for it being obvious and easy to nab. I mean, realistically, where else were you gonna hide it? It gives you more of an incentive to take out all the Hammer Bros rather than skipping past them straight to the final Boomerang Bro trio, and it being over the edge of a cliff makes it just a little bit nerve-wracking in case you screw it up and have to go from the last checkpoint again. Still just a simple spin jump to get though, I'm not placing it super highly. 22 Flip Swap Galaxy. Not exactly getting many points for being well hidden, but the placement for this one's actually quite solid. You gotta be mindful of the gimmick of the panels swapping when you spin so you don't lose your footing when you're course correcting, and you can't just walk over from the panels next to it since that's right where a chomp spawns in. It makes really good use of the galaxy it's in, I like this one a lot. Though maybe I would have also liked if it moved along with the panels. That way you could potentially miss it if it isn't flipped over to the right side. 21 Stone Cyclone Galaxy. They were never going to be able to hide something in Stone Cyclone, so going for challenge over stealth was the right call. It's on the level's biggest death trap and you have to plan out your pathing if you want to collect it. Do you take the normal route and then ride the stone platforms round? Or do you long jump over from the start, pray you've timed it properly, then double back for the silver star? So many choices, so little time to make them. Not that there's a time restriction, I just have other shit to do. This one in particular I'm really curious to see what people think about the placement for. I see Stone Cyclone frequently considered one of the worst galaxies in the game for being too hard, so I'm interested to see whether that'll extend to the Comet medal or not. Regardless, I find this one a lot of fun to grab, especially without making use of the time slow switch. 20 Flash Black Galaxy. The big golden medal naturally stands out a lot on the pitch black background, so it's kind of impressive that they didn't make this the most obvious thing ever. Putting it in the corner of the building where the course overview overview doesn't show it was quite clever, and the different routes up the building mean you could potentially make it to the launch star and fly off before you see it. I didn't though. I took the correct path straight away and got it because I'm very good. I remembered exactly where it was. My mind is a steel trap. 19 Slimy Spring Galaxy. About as good as we were going to get for a linear water level. The cave is just barely inconspicuous enough to not be a huge detriment, and something more low-key does fit Slimy Spring's vibe incredibly well. I just get to bask in a top-tier galaxy and take a little detour along the way. No complaints from me. We will see a better version of this later though. 18 Hightail Falls Galaxy. It's in plain view and there isn't much danger if you miss it because you can always go back for it, but this is arguably one of the most satisfying to get on your first try. The controls of Dash Yoshi are much more sensitive, so guiding him off the main path to this side bit, grabbing the medal and taking it back in one clean sequence feels great to do. 17 Haunty Halls Galaxy. Okay, credit where it's due. While Haunty Halls is far from one of the game's highlights to me, it has a great use of one of its gimmicks for the Comet medal. It's obvious what you need to do when you see where it is and what's around it, and from then on you just need to time when you run for it properly. And be patient with it as well. I tried to long jump back early a couple times and ate shit for it. Whoops. This could have ranked even higher if the path you went on wasn't so basic. 16 Wild Glide Galaxy. A great idea to have these gates you go through to make the Comet medal obtainable in the first place, and then you still have to grab it at the end without missing. It adds a lot to this level by giving you something to aim for rather than mindlessly gliding through. Plus it's a lot of fun to soar through each of them while backed by that lovely calming music. Only downsides being that it can be mildly frustrating to have to redo the entire level if you miss it, and even though I have grown on Fluzzard a lot over the years, I still wouldn't call these missions anywhere near my favourites. 15 Honey Hop Galaxy. Very satisfying to find alongside one of the silver stars on this exploration-based planet. I do wish they weren't so close together though. In an ideal world it would be far removed enough from the silver stars to where you could feasibly miss it as you go through. The easiest fix I could think of would just be to make this wall a bit taller so that the Comet medal could be placed off camera when you go around this corner during your search. Wow, there are a lot of good Comet medals in this game, huh? Well, there's a lot more left that I consider fantastic. Actively aiding their galaxies by being super well hidden, and or making use of the surroundings, mechanics, hazards, etc. to be more engaging to collect. 14 Sweet Mystery Galaxy. The camera luckily never spoils this one, and the possibility is there that you might not catch the platforms off to the side away from the main path if you're not paying attention to the radius of your bulbberry. It can also cause the timer for your power-up to run out if you get too careless with it, so even if it isn't challenging, it's also not entirely free. Not much more to it than that, it's a solid hiding spot. 13 Flip Out Galaxy. A very solid puzzle. Makes you wonder how you can possibly jump between the balls and then make them pop out at the right time before later revealing that the solution is to long jump back from the next section. It's a fun jump to make, especially knowing that you can't use your spin to course correct as freely as you normally would. Or you can just wall jump up if you're better at the game than I am. Depending on how you progress through the spike section, you might not even see the medal if you don't wall jump up at this bit, so there can still be some fun in finding it. 12 Clockwork Ruins Galaxy. Thankfully this is part of the only good star in Clockwork Ruins. If it was on that godforsaken set of spinning platforms, I would have put this near the bottom. It plays into one of the cooler parts of the level with these giant wheels that drop down that you have to avoid. If you think to see what happens if you climb up on top of one, you get to feel like a genius for finding this. If you don't think to do that, you get a pretty cool reveal as the camera turns at the end of the section, revealing where it was and making you realize you have to interact with the hazards in a completely different way. 11 Sky Station Galaxy. Really cleverly placed. You won't know to expect Comet medals on the first stage if you're a first time player who hasn't heard of them before. Stumbling across it will create a good amount of intrigue and tip you off to keeping an eye out for the rest of the game, and it's not too tedious to go back through if you miss it. Turning these hazards that push you off into platforms you use to find the medal on their path that you wouldn't normally cross is a great way to repurpose them. Funnily enough, this is one of the ones I missed on my first go through this time. I completely forgot it was there. 10 Fleet Glide Galaxy. Actually quite exciting to go for. The danger of the collapsing spaceship theme makes weaving around things so much more thrilling than Wild Glide, and balancing going through the gates on top of this makes the level fairly engaging. The location of one of the gates stumped me on my most recent playthrough, and it was this one on the other side of the open section. I tried looping around counterclockwise first, failed, did it clockwise a bunch of times, failed, looked it up after a point, found out that I was right the first time and just timed it wrong and then never tried again, so basically I might be stupid. Getting it right is a ton of fun. The loop around the planetoid makes this otherwise standard section fairly dynamic, and Fluzzard controls well enough to not make it too much of a hassle for me. Collecting the medal once the cage opens is way more compelling than in Wild Glide, since the nosedive at the end forces you to gain a lot of speed, and then the medal is so close that you have to immediately shift directions and collect it super fast since there isn't any time to slow slow down. 9. Cosmic Cove Galaxy. Is this anything crazy gameplay wise? No. Nor is it particularly difficult to find. You can even see it appear briefly in the course overview if you happen to be looking in the bottom corner. But what it is an excuse for me to spend more time basking in the unmatched serene beauty of one of the best galaxies in the game, and explore this otherwise super short level rather than bolting for the star immediately. Sometimes it's nice to stop and smell the flowers, you know? And hey, they don't put it in your immediate line of sight, so you do still have to look for it. 8. Chompworks Galaxy. This is another one you can see right as you land on the opening planet. The difference between this and Supermassive is that instead of the freest jump that's ever been performed, Chompworks forces you into the middle of a stream of chomps where you have to either backflip or triple jump over them. The timing is decently tight, and messing up means a high chance of being pushed right into the abyss. Love this for how high the risk is and how satisfying it is to pull off. 7. Rolling Coaster Galaxy. Gotta respect the bluntness of the choice they give you here. You can either take the normal route for an easier time, or go down the much harder path to get the Comet Medal. It's way narrower, these pillars will bump you off immediately, and the slope prevents you from slowing down at all. You need to weave your way through perfectly or else it's back to the beginning because there are no checkpoints. It's perhaps the most difficult medal to collect in the game, and it was unbelievably satisfying to one try it this time, especially with how much of a nightmare this galaxy was for me as a kid. Unfortunately, it means it comes with the other unique drawback in that it's the only medal that outright prevents you from getting to see the entire level if you're set on collecting it. Though I guess the green stars do give you another reason to revisit the course later, so it's not all bad. 6. Starshine Beach Galaxy. This is what I was talking about with Honey Hop. It's a more open and explorable area that puts the Comet Medal far out of the way of the silver stars you need to collect. My only slight grievance with the star itself is that the underwater portion is a bit underutilized, which is a boon for this list since it means it's in a location you could feasibly miss when going for the main objective. The multiple entrances are neat too. Shout out to the Gringos there to give it a bit of flavour. Gotta be one of, if not the best fish in the Mario franchise. Entering the top 5 now with Throwback Galaxy. Since the Wump King mission doesn't mandate that you go here normally, this is a good reward for encouraging you to explore other paths as you make your way up the fortress. It's a super nice callback to 64 since it shares a location with a shoot into the Wild Blue Star, paying off any knowledge of Wump's fortress you may have had before. And getting up to the elevated platform is a simple but fun puzzle to figure out. The triple jump into a wall jump is just really satisfying to do. And if you happen to miss it, the Silver Star mission does take you around here, so it'll make you aware of the area if you weren't already. Or you could just pay attention during the flyover sequence, that'd be helpful too. 4. Bowser's Galaxy Generator. Finding this one isn't too tough. It's very easily visible when you get to the snake block section. This one stands out though for how it ups the stakes on this part of the level. In order to get it, you need Yoshi to flip up on the flower things, and getting hit once can completely get rid of him, so you need to get through this on-rails portion unscathed. Something much harder to do when the Magmarks jump scare you several times and force you to do some split-second platforming to not lose Yoshi immediately. You fail to get him here but still want to pick up the medal, and it's all the way back to the start of the bridge with you, then redoing that whole bit of the level. I gotta respect how tough this one is on you, very fitting for the galaxy it's in. It barely misses out on the S tier, but thankfully we've got 3 more left to go that I'd say are the cream of the crop. This terrific trio makes excellent use of the galaxies they're each in to conceal themselves and make the experience of uncovering them quite fun. The bronze medal at number 3 is Freezy Flake Galaxy. Talk about a galaxy punching way above its weight class. No shade to Freezy Flake, I do like it a good bit. It's just not one of the better ones in my opinion, as much as I love it aesthetically. The Comet medal though is one of the most cleverly hidden in the game, being one of the very few I outright missed on my most recent go around and had to replay the level for it. Earlier in the level, they set up the mechanic of you needing to use the fire flower to destroy these snow statues, and later on they present you with this puzzle. There's a very obvious set of blocks you have to melt to get to the pipe, so if you tunnel vision on that too much like I did, then you might not even think to melt the blocks on the other side of the structure to find the Comet medal. It's even possible to have some of the blocks fall down and crush you while you're melting them, so there is some danger. A runner-up is Bowser Jr.'s Boom Bunker. I knew that if there was anyone in this world I could count on, it was Boom Bunker. This has everything I look for in a Comet medal, being cleverly placed and giving you a fun challenge to get it. It's on the sequence of moving platforms which is shown in the intro, but the camera's placed in a way that doesn't include the medal in the shot, so you might think to discount it entirely. It then makes it just barely visible in the cannon shot leading up to it and when you land, but since you'll be more focused on the target and what's in front of you, you might not see it in your peripheral vision. Once you actually go for it, you got a pretty enjoyable bit of platforming as you try to hop across to pick it up without touching the explosive mines and going straight into the abyss below, especially if you do it cloudless. And it's placed just high off the ground enough to where you'll pass under it initially, forcing you to jump and be aware of where the platforms are beneath you. Insane how having the best boss battle across both Galaxy games wasn't enough apparently. apparently. They needed to make this level one of the best in every other regard. And number 1, Melty Monster Galaxy. I have learned that anytime this galaxy wants to do something that doesn't immediately make sense, you simply have to trust the process. It advertises itself as a lava world only to ditch that and have 2/3 of the main stars be rock mushroom bowling. Well, those 2 stars are among my favorites in the game, so joke's on me. Putting the Comet medal in a seemingly obvious location, it will outright show you if you miss it, while the rest of the section more than makes up for that. Between all the magmas and magmargs on this planet, there is a lot to keep track of as you progress, so you likely won't be immediately drawn to the Comet medal that's visible in the background when you land on it. The planetoid it's on is hardly out of the way of the main path, but since your attention will likely be focused on the charred one you have to go to next and timing when you're going to jump onto it, there's a good chance your eyes will gloss over it completely and not register it. The medal itself is perfectly placed here to be just out of view of the camera, so that won't grab your eye straight away either. If you happen to not notice it as you go past, as I did on this playthrough, breaking the crystal and getting the star to spawn triggers a short cutscene where the medal is shown quite clearly. Rather than being a super lame way to point it out, this instead tells you that you have to backtrack your way through some of the lava monster onslaught that you just cleared as a walk of shame, but not so far back that it becomes tedious. Between this and Boom Bunker, it's one of the closest calls for first place I've ever had in a ranking video. After weighing everything together though, that final reveal in Melty Monster giving that "oh my god, how did I miss that" reaction led it place ever so slightly higher. For being perfectly placed on one of the game's best set pieces, I've got to crown this as my favourite Comet medal in Super Mario Galaxy 2. What a shame that this one doesn't spawn anything though. And that's the list. I have never seen this topic discussed anywhere else, so be sure to let me know if you have any major agreements or disagreements with my placements or reasoning. The Comet medals themselves are far from the aspect of Galaxy 2 I feel the most fondly towards. The stacked D tier should be proof enough of that. When looking at them as a collective though, I think they're a big net positive to the game. They give you something to keep an eye out for in every galaxy, most of which being a lot of fun to get. The best of them can play a role in making me love a star even more, while the ones I don't like are never something I would dock major points for. Tall Trunk is still one of my favourite galaxies. Head in the Clouds is one of my favourite stars. In general, the order of which I'd rank the missions these medals are a part of is going to be extremely different when I get around to my star ranking. And this is just the beginning of the galaxy videos I want to make. Once I've done the main Galaxy 2 star ranking, I'd like to do another video on the green stars, then going back and covering Galaxy 1, then doing a comparison to finally pick my favourite of the 2 games. After that, we'll see where we go from there. I hope you're looking forward to all that. In the meantime, I'll close this out. Thank you for watching, I hope you got something out of this, and have a good one.